In this tutorial, you're going to learn how to use placeholder text, apply a drop cap, match color for your text, use a text wrap, apply a gradient feather, and apply a drop shadow. Before we do that, we need to do some things in our layers panel first. So open up your layers panel and you can see you've got all your layers here for your front cover. Then we've got our layer here for pages 2 and 3. And if I click on the drop down arrow, you can see the additional elements inside pages 1 and 2 layer. I'm going to close that again. I want to create a new layer. Right click, new layer. I'm going to call this layer pages 4 and 5. Drag this layer to the bottom. Make sure it's active. Then you can scroll down. You've got your next 2 pages. Click on the left page, Ctrl-Alt-0 to zoom in, and now you can start your work for this next activity. Make sure the layer, pages 4 and 5, is selected so that any work you do will go into this layer. Go to the rectangle frame tool. Place a rectangle over the whole double spread. File, place. Choose the image you wish to place in. If your image doesn't come in at the correct size and doesn't fill the whole frame, you can go to Object, Fitting, and Fill Frame Proportionally. Mine has come in at a good size, but I'd actually like to make the image of the dog a little bigger. So to do that, I click on the Selection tool, double click on the image, and you should be able to see there is a brown frame around my image. I'm just going to zoom out a little bit. On a PC, that's holding the Alt key down and it lets me zoom out a bit. On the Mac, I think it's hold Control key down, and I can use the pan tool to pan across like this. Go back to the selection key, hold the Shift key down, and then drag that image out a bit. And same on the other side. Obviously, when you're editing your images, you'll do your own kind of editing. Once you've finished doing that, go to View, Fit Spread in Window, and you can see I have my image there. If you want to preview what your page will look like without the guides, hit W on the keyboard and then W again to put the guides back again. I want to put my article title in, so again I'm going to use the rectangle frame tool, pop a frame in here, click on the text tool, type in my heading. I'm going to highlight my text. Now I have a control bar at the top here. If you don't have yours open, go to Window and just tick Control. If I click on the A in the control bar, that brings up all the tools I need to manipulate my text. So the first thing I'm going to do is change the size of my text up to 72. Then I'm going to change the case of the text. Over here in the character palette, which I've opened by going Window, Type and Tools, Character, you can see I've got a Change Case button. I want to change it all to uppercase, and I also want to put summer on the next line. I'd like not to have those hyphens happen, so to do that, back on the control panel, click on this P for paragraph formatting, and then just untick hyphenate. So if your words split, that won't happen again. I'm going to change the style of the font using a font called Roboto, and I'm going to use Roboto Black. I'm going to increase the size of the font. You can see summer has disappeared. It's just because my box isn't big enough. So if I just stretch my box down, I can see that there. I'm now going to select the text tool again, highlight just the word summer and increase the size of that. And I'm also going to change the size of the gap in between the 2 lines of text. So I'm going to highlight the text or select the text. I'm looking for the leading tool. So if I come over to character over here, and hover over this tool, you can see it's leading, and I can click on a number in here and you can see that's too much, so then I can start manipulating it, a combination of the up and down arrows and just putting a number straight in. So remember, you've got to give it an opportunity to catch up with you, and I'm happy with that. Okay, so there's my heading there. I'm just going to click on the text box with the selection tool, double click on here, and that just changes the size of that. I want to change the color of some of my text, so I'm going to use the T for text tool again, select the text that I want to change the color of. I want to change this text at the top to white, so I double click on this T fill over here in the appearance and choose paper. And then the next text I want to change is summer. And this time I want the word summer to match the blue that's in the background here. So to do that, I come over to this tool over here. It might have color theme tool showing. If not, click and hold on it and choose eyedropper. And then take your eyedropper to a color on your page that you like the color of. And you should be able to see that it changes the color of that quite nicely. The next thing I'm going to do is insert some text. Now I don't have my body text ready yet, but I know where I want it to go. I'm going to put another frame in, and it's going to go from one side of the page to the other. I'm using the pink guides on the page. Put my frame in there. I want to put text in there, so I click on the T for text and then click in the box. And now I can go to type at the top of the page and look for fill with placeholder text. Now that just puts in text that's essentially gibberish but fills the space you've provided it with. I'm going to format the text, highlight it, choose my font style. Now I can either do it here in my control at the top of the screen or go over to the palette over here and choose Roboto from here. So I'm sticking with the same font, but I'm just going with different styles. So last time I used black, this time I'm going to use light, and I'm going to increase the font size to 14. I'm also going to make sure I go back up to paragraph and make sure that hyphenate is unchecked. The font is black. It's okay to read, it's not amazing, and it's also overlapping the picture. So I'm going to, first of all, add a drop capital. A drop capital is just a capital that's larger than the rest of the letters. So to do that, click on the T for text, click back anywhere really in the text box. On the control panel at the top, click on the P for paragraph. This tool here, or this button here, is a drop capital. So if I increase the line number, you can see the first letter of my sentence, number 2 here, it's covering 2 lines here. So I'm going to make mine take 4 lines, and that looks quite nice. If you wanted to, you could select the letter and change its color. I'm going to match my color to the color at the top here, and I'm going to change it to a medium font, so it's a little bit fatter than the rest of the text. So let's have a look at that. And that looks pretty good. Let's preview it without the guidelines. Hit W on the keyboard. Sorry, you need to deselect your square. And that's looking pretty good. We can make some of this stand out a bit better. I think summer's losing some of its definition, and we still need to do a text wrap as well. So we're going to do a text wrap. To do a text wrap, selection tool, click on your image, go to the window tab at the top, choose text wrap, and you want to choose the third one along, wrap text around object shape. Click on that, and in this drop down menu here for type, don't worry, everything's disappeared, we'll get that back in a minute. Click on the drop down arrow and select subject is the one I want to choose. And now my subject is selected, and you can see the dog has a frame all the way around her. I move my palette out of the way. So I want to increase the offset from here. I think the frame's a bit too close to her face. To increase the gap between the subject and the text, use this first box here and just keep clicking up, and you'll see that the text slowly moves away from your image as the outline slowly moves away from your image. I'm pretty happy with that. Again, I'm just going to preview that. So I'm going to just hit W. And that looks pretty nice the way that's all previewed in there. Some of the text is still hard to read, but we're going to solve that problem now. So I'm just going to put text wrap here out of the way. So the next thing I want to do, bring back my guidelines, is I want to do what's called a gradient feather. To do a gradient feather, choose the rectangle tool and put a rectangle over the whole left side of your page up to the center fold. We're going to fill that rectangle with white or paper, and it's gone over the top because that's the way the layers work. I now want to, with this object still selected in the selection tool, go to Object, Arrange, Send to Back, and my text has come over the top of it. I need to do the same thing again. Object, Arrange, Send to Back. I've got summer, and now my other text was white. All I need to do is select that text, click on the fill color again, and change it to black, and you can see the text is there. All right, so now we need to make sure we've got this rectangle selected, this white rectangle that we've put in. We are going to go to Object, Effects, and we're looking for Gradient Feather. The gradient feather puts a shadow of black on one side, which means you can see what happens if I adjust this. I can move this tab, or I can move this tab. And what it does, it just decreases the intensity of the color of the photo behind there. So some of this image starts to stand out a bit. So some of the background starts to stand out a little bit more. If your image is the other way around, you can actually swap these over. So if I wanted to swap them over this way and have it more like this, that would work. But you can see that covers the dog's face there. So in this instance, I want the black on the left and the white on the right. And it makes my text a little bit easier to read. So far we've done a drop cap, we've done a wrap text, and we've done a feather gradient. If you're happy with how that looks great. I'm going to add one more thing in here. I'm going to select my text here in this text box. So with the selection tool, click on the frame for the text box. I'm going to go to Object, Effects, and I'm going to add a drop shadow. And drop shadows, as long as you've got preview ticked, you can see what it does there. So in this instance, I can change my shadow to normal, experiment with any of these, but normal or multiply are the two obvious ones to go for. You can change the angle of the shadow any way you want. You can change the opacity of the shadow by using the slider there, and I want mine a little bit lighter to try and match the shadows that are already in my photograph. And you can change the size of the shadow too. So you can click on this, you can type a number in, or you can make it spread out more or bring it in tighter. You can investigate all of these on here. So if you're happy, click on OK. I'm just going to hit W, deselect. I could play around with the colors a bit more. I could do some more things to it, but generally that's a fairly good layout. The only thing that you would do differently is cut and paste in your own text rather than using this lorem ipsum stuff, which is, if you look in very closely at it, let me zoom in, you can see it looks like fake Latin in here. It doesn't mean anything. View, fit spread in window.